With the free agency and offseason fast approaching, the Blue Jays are going to be interested in many free agent targets, and a recent report suggests that Cody Bellinger will be on the Blue Jays' radar. So we'll break that down in this episode of Jays Digest. As well as a Blue Jays coach, he is being pursued by an NL team. So to break that down and much more coming up next. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Nick Gosse, along with host Peter Vryonis. And Peter, we have a lot to break down today. There's some crazy news going down. Of course, the World Series or the LCS is on the go right now. And it's a crazy time to be a baseball fan. And free agency is going to be approaching very, very quickly. And that means, like we all know, a lot of rumors are going to be surfacing. A lot of Blue Jays rumors are going to be surfacing. And it's going to be a very, very exciting time if you're a Jays fan.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a ton of fun right now just watching baseball, kicking it back, and not having to worry about what the Blue Jays are going to be doing on a daily basis. It is nice. It's a refreshing change. I think we were all disappointed once the season first ended, but now I think we're all just kicking it and watching baseball, and kind of the Jays put us out of our misery in a sense by getting eliminated in that way that they did against the Minnesota Twins. But yeah, the playoffs have been great. I mean, the Jays, obviously, they're still involved in every rumor possible just because they have to make some changes. And the way that the season went down was really unfortunate for them. And just the fan base is demanding more. They're demanding some changes. And Cody Bellinger is one of those guys that we've had circled for a while now. I think it makes total sense for the Blue Jays to pursue him, especially with Kevin Kiermaier seemingly on his way out of the Blue Jays lineup as he hits free agency here. So the Jays have some options. They have some ways to address the holes that are going to be leaving in the offseason, and it's going to be interesting to follow throughout. But Cody Bellinger has got to be at the top of the list. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani as well, but that's not as realistic. So we're going to stick on the Cody Bellinger front here.
Yeah, Bellinger, this is not going to be the last time you hear about him, both in the news, rumor mill, and our videos as well, because he's a guy that, the Jays are going to be we know are going to be targeting. Before we get into that, quick reminder, hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 10,000, and about 73% of you guys aren't subscribed. But let's get into the first topic here, which, like we said, this is really big for the Blue Jays if they can get Cody Bellinger. So a report came out, and it was within an article here where they're basically asking a Blue Jays insider / writer / reporter, is Cody Bellinger a realistic target for the team? I know they liked him last season. It's hard to imagine it gets more than Brandon Nimmo last year, who the Jays were also interested in, who signed for 8 years, 162. Is that a price the team can afford? And that's the big question is, how much are they actually willing to spend? Are they willing to go for Shohei Ohtani, or are they going to go with someone a bit cheaper, even though he is the most expensive? So you can pause and read this if you want. And it basically goes to highlight that Bellinger is the second best free agent, like you said, Peter, after Shohei Ohtani, and probably the most realistic free agent that the Jays need to go ahead and get. And it basically goes on to say he will be a fit in Toronto. Mark Shapiro mentioned that the payroll shouldn't be drastically different, which actually works out well because of all the money coming off the books. And he also says, without knowing entirely what the Jays front office is thinking, what I would say is there's enough recent evidence that Toronto pursues top free agents, which is very, very big. And then he goes out to say here, of course, they'll have lots of money coming off their books, and this is the big one right here. And a lot of money coming off their books. The team should still have money to spend next season. And Peter, that's what we want to hear. We want to hear that the Blue Jays are going to be interested in Cody Bellinger. They're going to be pursuing Cody Bellinger, and all signs point to them being able to do so.
Yeah, well, it's never really been a problem, the Blue Jays spending money, especially not in the last couple of years. And yeah, money is going to be coming off the books, whether it be Kevin Kiermaier, whether it be Brandon Belt, Whit Merrifield, Matt Chapman as well. So there's going to be some ways to go out and spend in other areas. And you brought up Brandon Nimmo as well. That was another guy that the Blue Jays were finalists for, but they just didn't get him. He decided to go back to New York, probably gave him a couple of extra years. I don't know if Bellinger is going to get 8 years. He is younger than Nimmo, so that does work in his advantage, but he is also someone that has struggled immensely in a couple of years, and then in other years he's looked like an MVP candidate. So which Cody Bellinger are you going to get? I think you're going to get the one that's closer to an MVP candidate just because he's healthy now, and you could tell that his shoulder injury was really bothering him in his couple of down years that he had with the Dodgers before he got shipped off to the Cubs. So I think it's definitely realistic that the Jays are going to be in the mix for Cody Bellinger. How many years are they going to be willing to go? I think that's the big question. It's not the money that's the problem. They've shown the willingness to give $150 million to George Springer, to give $100+ million to Kevin Gausman. Those guys were in their 30s when they got that deal. Or George Springer was 30, Kevin Gausman was 31, 32 maybe when he got that deal. So they don't have a problem committing money and years to these guys that are entering the back end of their primes. And Cody Bellinger is 27. So he's even younger and probably should have a longer prime as well. But it's all dependent on whether or not he's going to want to cash in on this deal, whether he thinks this is going to be his final deal and he'll want like 8 to 10 to maybe even 11 years on this deal, or if he's going to be willing to accept a 5 to 7 year deal, which the Jays would probably be more comfortable giving him.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, obviously Bellinger was a MVP candidate last year, had a phenomenal season. He's obviously not going to win it, but he's a guy that his career's been up and down. So if you're a free agency team who's willing to give Cody Bellinger money, the question is, if he wants 11 years, are you banking on him having a year like last year where he put up a 4.4 WAR, a 307 average, 26 home runs, 97 RBIs? Or are you banking on, maybe the down seasons that he had prior to this? I'd agree with you. He's probably more so, and he's proven enough now that he's more type of this player than the poor performance he had in the Los Angeles for the last couple of years. But at the same time, if I'm the Blue Jays, I'm not sure I want to give out 10 however many years. That being said, if he wants 6 or 7 years, which probably is the most likely that a team will give him, if we have to pay a little bit of extra money to actually get Cody Bellinger to the Blue Jays, I am more than willing to give him that, just because of how good he is. He is excellent defensively, and when he actually has his hitting right, he's a phenomenal hitter. Obviously, he had his down years before, but realistically, we wanted Cody Bellinger last offseason. We thought Cody Bellinger was going to the Jays. There was mutual interest there. Everyone thought that he was going to the Jays for a little period of time. Reports were circling about that. And one quick thing to highlight here, if you look at the last sentence, it says this team should still have the money to spend this winter and should be in on the Bellinger discussions, and that's the report there. They should be in on him. They will be in on him. Yeah. I hope that they can go ahead and get him. The question is, at 28 years old, just turned 28, how much will he cost? It'll probably be around maybe 162, maybe less. I wouldn't think it would be more, like you said, but who knows? Maybe he goes for some crazy 10-year amount because of how weak the free agency class is.
Yeah, he might, and we might even see a not similar type contract for Matt Chapman, but it just shows like the lack of depth in the free agency class. And yeah, I don't know if you'll get 10. That might be a bit of a stretch
8.
Just because of his injury hit. But I think 8 is something that the Jays might not be willing to do. But just imagine how much better this Blue Jay team would have been had they had Cody Bellinger instead of Kevin Kiermaier. And we were saying that we wanted them to get Bellinger. A lot of people were kind of iffy about the whole thing because they weren't sure how he would bounce back. But he went to Chicago and resurrected his career. And I think he's closer to that type of player. And you could expect similar type of production for years coming. I mean, you talked about the home runs, the batting average, the OPS. He also had 20 stolen bases, and he's got crazy versatility. He's got a cannon of an arm in the outfield. He can play some first base when Vladdy needs a DH day. So he gives the Blue Jays that roster flexibility that they've been asking for. This is the perfect player to go out and get if you're Toronto, because he can play multiple positions. He can run the bases well. He's a phenomenal defender, and definitely someone that the Jays should be targeting. They spoke about getting upgrades. They spoke about becoming a better team while not straying away from the same kind of play style or model that they wanted to fit this year. Who better than Cody Bellinger to do that? I can't think of a better player on the market that fits the Blue Jays' way of playing and also can be a pretty good player for them as well.
You could even argue that he's better than any trade potential target that might be, upcoming, just because of he literally fits it perfectly, and he's a left-handed hitter, and he hits for power, and he's elite defensively. He literally does every single thing you want a player to do. And if you look at his career batting average, his career OPS plus, he is a career great hitter. So his down years didn't fully impact that. And then one final thing, you look at the baseball savant, it's off the charts. Obviously, he had 2 pretty bad years, but sometimes that happens with baseball teams, and sometimes that's the way stuff goes. And if you want to quick pause and read this, they were also asked the question, how does the team make the jump from from playoffs to World Series? And I'll let you all think about that, and you can pause and read it if you want. Basically, we need clutch hitting and power, which is something that, of course, Cody Bellinger brings. But let us know what your thoughts are on Cody Bellinger. I'm sure a lot of you guys want him. And one quick final thing before we wrap up is our Mets are targeting one of our beloved coaches, specifically our first base coach, Mark Budzinski. And Peter, seems like every other team out there is trying to poach some coaches that we have. As Blue Jays first base coach Mark Budzinski is reportedly on the Mets list of managerial candidates. And if I'm Mark Budzinski and I get offered a managerial job, the Mets are a bit of a disaster class right now. But I mean, would be surprised if Mark doesn't accept that, deal if he's offered it. But I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? It seems like there's a little bit of turnaround coming around, some changes coming. We had our third base coach, Luis Rivera, retire. Budzinski goes, then we're looking for a lot of changes. And I wouldn't be surprised if Guillermo Martinez gets let go here over the next couple months or so. But any quick thoughts on this? I've liked Budzinski in his time as a Blue Jay. Seems like a very, very good coach and a solid guy as well.
Yeah, it all depends where he's at with his family. Obviously, we know the situation that went down last year with his daughter, and we wish him all the best in that scenario over there. But it all depends where he's at mentally.
That's a good point.
Is he ready? Is he ready for this change? Obviously, it's going to come with higher money, higher pay raise, and it's going to come with more responsibility. But at the same time, how long of a leash is he going to get in New York? I mean, they're rebuilding. That's been well documented now. They traded away their assets before the deadline, but is their owner going to understand that? Is he going to understand that they're going to have some down years and not just get rid of him if he doesn't make the playoffs despite having a below average roster in the first year, So it, they are a disaster. And I don't know if Mark Budzinski would want to take on that type of responsibility right away, especially considering what has happened with him. So, yeah, it's more money, but more responsibility and a lot more pressure in New York as well, especially if you're the manager. They are not bringing back Buck Showalter. I don't know if he's retiring or not, but Mark Budzinski, he deserves an opportunity, but I don't know if he wants it to be with the Mets for his first managerial job. I'm sure he'll have some interest from other places, whether it be as a bench coach, maybe, or a third base coach, somewhere with more responsibility, more money, but definitely more stability. So I don't know if the Mets are going to be one of the teams that he's got circled on his radar.
Yeah, and there's a good chance that he wants to maybe stay with the Blue Jays. I mean, you mentioned the horrible stuff that happened, but as well as, he's been with the Jays now for a little bit. He seems very, very comfortable there. And also a thing to note is he's also a leading candidate to replace Luis Rivera as the third base coach. A report
Yeah.
came out. So if he stays there, maybe he'd rather that, which of course is a much bigger role than a first base coach, at least on the field. And from the TV perspective, there's more pressure, and Budzinski won't get called out as a first base coach very often, but Luis Rivera got called out a ton. But yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see, and the turnaround of coaches right now that the Jays. A lot of rumors with James Click potentially leaving, Mark Budzinski leaving. So I don't know. It's going to be a wild next couple of months. But hope you guys are enjoying the videos and enjoying the ALCS. It's a very, very good time to be a Jays fan. If you want to check out our video from yesterday, click it on your screen right now. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.